Hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Come at you today with another book tag. I decided to go ahead and do a couple of them today. This is the stay-at-home book tag, and right now I'm staying at home with my daughter, and she's upstairs, supposed to be sleeping. She still has yet to fall asleep. She likes to sit up there and read aloud to herself and sing, and yeah. Which is all fine and dandy until I start hearing her little footsteps. Thump, 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 thump. And then I've got to go say something. But as long as she's in bed, resting. So anyway, while she's doing that, I decided to do this book tag, the stay-at-home book tag. I saw this recently on Paul's Reads and Reviews, and I'll put that down in the description, the link to that. And I went looking for the original one, and I found the original one at Princess of Paperback, and I will put that link down in the description for you. So, I believe this is a fairly new tag as well, so I think that's a good thing. So anyway, here are the prompts. So prompt number 1, a book you could or have read in a day. And I had a couple of them here. This one I struggle with because I'm a slow reader. And so reading a book in a day, even if it's a small book, I typically don't get it done in one day, maybe two. But occasionally I can do that. The first one, and I've been talking about this one a lot just because I've been messing with it with my 8th grade class because we're reading it right now in class. But Frederick Douglass, pretty thin volume. I can easily sit down and read that in one day. And that's a autobiography of his life as a slave. Another one that I started the other night, and if I was to sit down with this and have a long day of reading, I could get this done. And it is Savannah, or A Gift for Mr. Lincoln by John Jakes. That's a good book, Civil War related. I've been on a John Jakes kick of late, and so I've been enjoying some of his fiction. So prompt number 2, a guilty pleasure book. This is a guilty pleasure book for me. Fiction to begin with is a guilty pleasure for me. I typically read nonfiction, but every once in a while I just want to have a fun read, just real quick, not have to think much about it. And for me, and I'm going to read this one soon, is John Grisham's Playing for Pizza. This is a fun book. I've read this one a few other times. It's one of those. It's kind of like a Western on a Saturday afternoon. I like to pick it up, once a year or so and read through it. And it is another one-day read if you've got the time to do it. I enjoy that. That's a guilty pleasure for me. Prompt number 3, series that you want to start. Now, I've talked about this early on when I first started the channel a few months ago, and the one series that I really want to get started, it's a trilogy on Theodore Roosevelt, and that's Theodore Rex by Edmund Morris. And then I also have The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Now, I do not have the third book in the series. I'll have to get that one soon. And the third book, of course, it's going to escape me right at the moment, the name of it. But anyway, let's see. Of course, I don't have it in there either. But anyway, I got to get the third book in the series. I'd really like to get that one started. That's on my TBR list for this year, so I know I am going to get it started. And then recently I read James Thomas Flexner's one-volume history of George Washington, and I found it to be kind of a so-so book just because I think he had a tough time jamming it into one volume and didn't have a ton of detail, kind of skipped large periods of time. But everybody that writes about Washington talks about Flexner's 4-volume series on George Washington, and I would really like to get that one started. I picked that up the other night and got to looking at it, and I think it would be a fairly quick read, and I could go through all 4 volumes fairly quickly. So that's something I might tackle here sometime in the very near future. Let's see here. You have to excuse me. I got the prompts over here on my computer. Been on your TBR for ages. Now this is one that's on either a lot of people's TBR, or they have already read it. And that is David Herbert Donald's Lincoln. And it is, most people say it is one of the best one-volume histories of all time on Lincoln. It usually ranks at the very top of everybody's list. It's very detailed, very concise. He comes to some very good, points in his study of Lincoln. And I have everybody also all the new volumes on Lincoln that come out. They all source this book by David Herbert Donald. And so for a long time I've wanted to read this, and I bought it a couple years ago. I finally got it, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it. Part of it is it was buried in the upper room along with several of these other books. So unburying the upper room, cleaning out the spring cleaning we did, that has been wonderful. We've been able to I've been able to find all kinds of books that I've been wanting. So anyway, let's move forward here. Let's see. Next prompt is book you recently bought because of hype. Now, the book that I bought recently, and actually I got it for Christmas, but the reason I got it was because of the hype, was Rick Atkinson's The British Are Coming. And I read this in, was it December, I think it was, when I read this, and this was fabulous. I thought this was an absolutely awesome book. Highly recommend it to anybody. It's very much a military history. It's very, very detailed. I sometimes really like the politics and the ideology stuff. I sometimes like to look at that. And this didn't have that, but it is a great volume as far as a military history. Excellent, excellent read. I bought that because of the hype. It actually, I'm a member of the Journal of American, the Journal of the American Revolution, I think is the name of it. And this was one of the books that they were advertising on the website. And they were sending out emails telling you to look for it. And so I can't wait till volume 2 comes out. I don't know if it's at the end of this year or if it's next year. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into that. I need to look into that because that was awesome. That was a good buy. A book you learned from or that had an impact on you. And the book I chose for this was a book called Lincoln's Melancholy: How Depression Challenged a President and Fueled His Greatness by Joshua Wolfe Shank. And this book was another fabulous volume. And he really centers in on Lincoln's mental state. Talks about the depression he suffered from, his near mental collapse, his bouts with the depression, wanting to commit suicide, and how he got out of that funk. Now, I know a lot of people who suffer from some of this kind of stuff, and so this one had an impact on me because it really told me that, even when you've got some of them issues, some of those abnormalities, if you want to call it that, that does not mean that you have to be, wrote off and nobody needs to pay attention to you. That is not the case, because obviously we don't write off Lincoln. Lincoln became one of the greatest presidents in American history. And he just showed everyone that you can take your depression and all of your other stuff that you suffer from, and you can use that to make yourself better, to fuel the fire, so to speak. And anyway, I just thought this was an excellent volume. I would highly recommend this to anybody wanting to learn about the mental state of Abraham Lincoln. I thought it was a wonderful book. All right. Let's see here. A book you were gifted. Now, oftentimes not oftentimes, almost every time, for my birthday and Christmas, I always ask for books. And if you haven't caught a theme here, Lincoln and Washington, those are my favorite topics. I've got other books, but those are always my favorite topics, and my family knows it. And so a lot of times that's what I get for my presents. And this was David McAuliffe, 1776. This was a book about the American Revolution, kind of centered around George Washington in that year, 1776. Talks about the battles of New York. It ends with Trenton and Princeton. It talks about the Declaration, talks about Tom Paine and the well, the crisis at the end of the year, but then the common sense at the beginning of the year. And this was gifted to me by my daughter, and you can see that there. Happy Father's Day, Daddy. Love, Crimson. And this was a long time ago because that is my wife's handwriting. That's my wife's handwriting. But I'm guessing she was pretty little when it came out in 2005, so she would have been really young when I got this. But that was a book that I was gifted. I absolutely love that book as well. I would highly recommend that to anybody wanting to read on the Revolution in Washington. All right, we're at the end of this stay-at-home book tag. What is one thing that you have done recently to look after yourself? And I am guessing this is referring to, having to stay at home with everything going on around the nation. And one of the things that I've done recently to look after myself is, we can't go to church on Sunday. The churches have been kind of shut down. They've been, or I guess not shut down, but advised not to go. And so our pastor, like many pastors around the nation, he has been putting his stuff not only on his website or on the church website, but also on the Facebook, all of our Sunday services. And actually, he's been doing a daily devotional where he does, 10 to 20 minutes of scripture reading. And that's been really good, especially this Easter weekend. This was a tough weekend to not be able to, go to church. And so that's something I have been able to do. My family has been able to do to keep ourselves, our spirits lifted and just remember that, God's in control. And so the last one, this is a bonus. Name a book coming out soon. And so I couldn't think of any right off the top of my head because I usually don't start looking for it until October when my birthday comes around and December when Christmas comes around, when we've got a little money to spend from gift cards and stuff. But I was looking online and it looks like Amazon had John Grisham's Camino Wins. I didn't know his books usually come out in either October or December. Perfect for me. But this one's supposed to come out April 28th of 2020. And so I'm pretty excited about that. A new Grisham book. I didn't even know it was coming out. So I might be looking into that and I'll let you know how that is. So anyway, this has been my stay-at-home book tag. I thank you for staying with me, and hope you guys are all staying healthy and safe, and just enjoying some extra rest. And hopefully you're figuring things out on the computer. Sometimes that's a struggle for me, with my teaching and stuff, having to go virtual with everything, and that's a struggle for me. So I hope you guys are finding ways to get the extra reading in and to get your jobs done. So anyway, until next time, you have a great day, BookTube. Happy reading.